fresh. We present to you local and international newspaper headlines for the day with in-depth analysis from seasoned professionals. Start your day the right way on 99.3 Nigeria Info. Nigeria Info.
It's 99.3 Nigeria Info. You're welcome to the show. It's the Morning Crossfire, and we're your number one news, talk, and sports station. It's 7:33. It's time to look at the stories across the papers today, and we'll be looking at the Guardian newspaper, the Punch, the Nation. We also have the Daily Trust, This Day newspaper, Daily Independent, as well as the Daily Sun. If you are just joining us because the show started at 6 a.m., well, welcome. We have you till 9 a.m. For now, let's look at these stories. And we're streaming live on Facebook and also YouTube at Nigeria Info FM. Just do a quick search, Nigeria Info 993 on Facebook and YouTube. You can find us there. Twitter is at Nigeria Info FM. I am Wemimo Adewuni. Welcome.
I'm Sheriff Quadry. Rotimi Sankore joins us in the studios this morning. Rotimi, welcome back.
Thank you. Good morning.
Looks like he was caught unawares. Welcome back. Welcome back. All right, guys, if you're ready, we are. The Guardian is our media partner. They have this story. It's the big one here. Governors back 7.5% VAT increase as Senate okays finance bill. Say more money needed to improve lives of Nigerians. Lawmakers vow to intensify oversight on revenue agencies. That's the banner story on the Guardian newspaper. Similar one on the Punch. NECA LCCI kick as Senate okays Buhari's VAT hike. It was a rude shock to Nigerians that the People's Senate, without due process, passed the bill to increase VAT. The National Assembly members have condemned the citizenry to a life of servitude to fuel their appetite for easy life. This is coming from NECA on the front page of the Punch. If you look at other papers today, you find similar stories. The Daily Trust, outrage as Senate approves 50% VAT hike. Find that on the Daily Trust.
It's on the front page of this day newspaper as well. Just above the nameplate, LCCI others kick as Senate passes finance bill. That's this day. It's a banner on the front page of Daily Independent newspaper. Despite opposition, Senate okays 7.5% VAT increase. That's Daily Independent for you. And it's also a banner on the front page of Daily Sun. Prices to go up as Senate okays VAT hike. Riders also endorses 56 tax amendments. Labour, OPS condemn increase. From Daily Sun newspaper.
Rotimi, this headline that says governors supports, wouldn't they back it? It's good for them. They get the most of the money, so.
Yes, because the majority of the VAT redistributed goes to the states.
So.
I'm not entirely sure how the Lagos state government will feel, though, given that the majority of the VAT also comes from Lagos.
Right.
So.
Well, it's just increased percentage. It's still the same number of people paying tax unless they spread the.
What I'm saying is that the other governors will be delighted, but not necessarily the governor of Lagos, because if the majority of the VAT comes from Lagos and the majority of the VAT stayed in Lagos, maybe the Lagos
they'll
governor
have a reason to be glad.
So we can comfortably say that the other governors are delighted. We are not sure about the Lagos governor, but really the most important thing here is the reaction of the stakeholders. Anytime a government wants to introduce a policy and you have stakeholders from across spectrums uniting against it, it always suggests that the consultation was not done properly. On the one hand, you have Labour saying this is not a good idea. Then you have the business community
Yeah.
at least the organized business community.
LCCI, NECA, here in the
Because
Punch.
once you see the Lagos Chamber of Commerce, manufacturers and people like that saying this is not a good idea. And don't forget, this didn't start today, although people are complaining that it was rushed through to drive more revenue. I mean, this has been going on for, if I recall correctly, now about 2.5 or 3 years. Because I remember the finance minister in Buhari's first term.
Former president even wanted to increase it
yes.
then, and it was stepped down.
So it's not new, but people are saying this was rushed through because government suddenly find itself facing revenue shortfall.
This might be why they said it was rushed. NECA Director General here on page 2 of the Punch, Mr. Timothy Olawale, said the passage of the financial bill would result in increase in prices of goods and services. He described the action of the Senate as a rude shock, as the senators failed to consider memoranda submitted by Nigerians on the bill before passing it. Let me quote him. Says it was a rude shock to the generality of Nigerians that the People's Senate, they put that in quotes, without due process of going through memoranda submitted and that are still pouring in on the financial bill, passed the bill to increase VAT, excise duty and stamp duty. Nigerians by implication are now to pay more for goods and services. So they're saying Nigerians are already, complaining, but you just ignored all of those and went ahead.
Yes, but can we also point out that the VAT may be the big headline issue in the bill, but there are also some other aspects of the bill that small businesses may appreciate, although I'm not sure how appreciative they will be. For instance, firms making under 25 million naira, there are some exemptions there for them. But the main point that Labour, LCCI, NECA are all making is that the disposable income is already slim to non-existent. And that if you create a scenario in which the increased prices will be passed on to the consumers, then people will just stop buying, or people will buy less. And if you buy less, then less will be sold, which means less VAT, which then defeats the purpose.
Which means companies will need to produce less and then lay off workers because it's a cycle.
Yeah, so I think that's the point that they are trying to make. And I have always been of the, I believe, well-informed opinion that the key issue is for all the problems that undermine income in Nigeria to be addressed. For instance, the electricity problem means people spend disproportionate amount of their income on fuel for generator. The same thing for water. The non-availability of organized pipe-borne water means people spend disproportionate amount of income buying water. I was stunned over the last week or so to hear one commissioner in Lagos advising people to drink only the government provided pipe-borne water,
which is provided in which
because all the other water they are drinking may be contaminated.
That sounds like a joke.
I said this guy is he's living in another country
entirely. You should join Tuji Andrews at 9. He'll be breaking down this financial bill. Definitely, that will be at 9 o'clock. But some stuff also happening in Kano State. Banner headline on the Daily Trust. Kano government kicks as court dissolves Ganduje created Emirates. We will study the verdict, says Assembly. Protests in Rano, Gaya, Bichi and Karaye. You find this from the Daily Trust. The story also makes it to the Punch newspaper. Protest as Kano court sacks new emirs. It's also in the Guardian. Court invalidates Kano's additional 4 emirates.
It's here on the front page of Daily Independence newspaper. Kano government vows to recognize 4 emirs sacked by court. Kano government vows to recognize 4 emirs sacked by court. That's from Daily Independence newspaper. And from day,
there is something we just need to say there.
Even I think
that newspaper headline should have just said Kanu government vows to disobey
Court
court
order.
order.
I mean, seriously?
Well, on the front page of this day newspaper, court nullifies creation of 4 new emirates in Kano. That's from this day newspaper. But Daily Independent's way of captioning it.
Honestly,
it's
for
quite
older
interesting.
listeners that will have watched Village Headmaster, there is a phrase, I believe it was Chief Elaine he used to use, nonsense and ingredients. That applies to that Kanu government statement.
I'm trying to look at the
is
story to be
nonsense with a
sure.
lot of ingredients in it.
Spiced, right? Well spiced.
How can a governor come out blatantly? Anyway, he's probably imitating the federal government.
Right.
Page
I mean,
5.
there are precedences everywhere.
No, this is pretty alarming. Okay, here it is. I
Complete-
need to be sure they
complete
really
nonsense.
said so, and it's not just the headline.
No, he
Right.
said so. I've seen it since
Let me read it
yesterday.
out. Page 5 of the Daily Independent. I mean, my mouth was just open when I heard the headline. Kano State government on Thursday vowed that it will continue to recognize 4 emirs sacked by Kano State High Court. Justice Usman Naaba of Kano High Court on Thursday dissolved 4 new emirates and first-class emirs created by Kano State government in May. Let me skip. Okay, Governor Abdullahi Ganduje of Kano had on May 7 assented to a law establishing 4 additional emirates with first-class emirs in Bichi, Rano, Karayi, and Gaya. Let me skip. Okay, but the laws were challenged. That law was challenged by the then member representing Guazo in Kano State House of Assembly. Okay, let's move it up. Okay, however, reacting to the ruling, Muhammad Garba, that's the Kano State Commission of Information, said the Ganduje administration will continue treating the sacked emirs as first-class monarchs. He said the government will not fold its arms and concede its constitutional powers in the interests of the well-being of the people. I'm not understanding.
Honestly,
I am not.
in this kind of
understanding.
case, in any sane,
Really
in
now?
any sane country, immunity or not, the court should summon the fellow and give him a serious telling of. This Ganduje guy, the guy is going to cause problems in that state. Look, when you are governor, you are an executive governor. Your position of responsibility is so important that you have to think a dozen times before you open your mouth.
Right, absolutely. Every word you utter counts.
I'm so disappointed at this statement. I mean, if there's a court order, if you want to challenge it, you can appeal the judgment rather than
if
say.
they said they will look at it, they will appeal.
Yes.
They will, but
Rather than
they
say
will
we would-
continue to recognize in defiance of court order. I mean, this is just such a bad example. And honestly, the federal government is to blame for this kind of development.
Right.
And the president really needs to reconsider this idea about selective obedience of court order, because once the federal government set the bad example there, it was almost inevitable that many state governments will follow, and it's going to create lawlessness. I go back to the quote of Professor Wole Soyinka, where he said, once government officials and law enforcement agencies start disobeying the law, is an invitation to anarchy.
Because every other person then also takes the
people
laws
will
into
just
their
say
hands.
It started
what,
already.
what nonsense are they saying that the law is for us and not for them, that when it is inconvenient they will disobey the law. It's going to lead to anarchy. In fact, the police and the executive will soon start losing the moral authority to charge people for certain things, because once the majority of people just think the executive is lawless, or the law enforcement agencies are lawless.
Right.
Once that moral authority goes, the social contract is in the bin.
Indeed. Let's take a few comments on Facebook. Ikpan Marcelo on Facebook says, it's unfortunate. This is the kind of government we find ourselves. Thanks to Nigerian for the good job. Bolan Akimbami says, Kano Court is spot on. Emergency Emirates is just to spite Emir Sanusi Lamido. Ganduje's disregard to court order is adding insult to injury. Abdulhai Kamode says, good morning to you all. God bless you, though. I am just seeing you guys for the first time. Keep the good work going. God is your strength. And it goes on and on and on and on.
On Twitter, we also have a comment from Toluwala Sheoluwapelumi who says, please call it what it is, sir. Ganduje is imitating Buhari pure and simple. Not that he's imitating the federal government. Well, that's the federal government, right? Says, all right, no, I'll leave that last sentence out. Okay, but that's the summary of what it says. Let's see another story here. If we look at the Punch newspaper. Let's see. Did I skip out some? Okay, yes, here it is. It's on the Daily Trust also. PDP demands cancellation of Bayelsa Kogi polls. PDP demands cancellation of Bayelsa Kogi polls. The Punch also has this. Cancel Bayelsa Kogi elections. PDP tells INEC. Bello Leon gets certificate of return. That's from the Punch. The Guardian also has it. Bayelsa Kogi governors-elect get certificate of return. On the Nation, PDP writes off Bayelsa Kogi elections. Party 6 sanctioned. And a similar story, last moment of slain Kogi politician. Neighbors flee town. A very sad story of a female politician that was burnt in a house just after the election.
Rotimi, on the front page of this day newspaper, the same story has the PDP 6 travel ban on INEC chiefs, police high command. How reasonable is that call?
Well, look, this idea that everything has to be sorted by travel ban and by force.
Right.
PDP should be calling for better conduct of election, calling for the Nigerian law to be enforced where people have breached the law in the process of elections or voting or otherwise. Those are things that they should be calling for. Travel ban to where? To one country, to two countries. I assume they are talking of US, UK.
EU and all of that.
Any criminals that may be, that anybody that may have committed crimes and are banned from going to UK or US. I don't know if PDP has noticed that they can always head for Dubai and other places where they can get the same amount of shopping done and probably buy houses. So, this kind of, unless you can get all the countries in the world to enforce it, maybe through the UN, which is very difficult. The important thing, look, in countries where things work properly, opposition party does not call for travel ban. They call for people to be arrested and charged according to the law.
Right.
And if found guilty, sentenced accordingly.
But couldn't this have been necessitated by the fact that they don't trust the system? They feel the system.
Well, we should make
the
the system work. If the system doesn't work, you can't be calling on foreign governments continuously to come. So what's going to happen? So the next time that one convoy drives against traffic and runs over people with siren, we will be calling for travel ban on the person.
I am particularly even concerned about the travel ban being called on INEC chiefs. And I'm wondering, was it INEC that disrupted elections? Was it INEC that was firing guns? Was it INEC that was disenfranchising people from casting their ballot?
Well, to be sure, there are things that INEC could have done better. There is no doubt about it. But as you rightly pointed out, the violence, the disruption, all those things were perpetrated either by politicians, they are thugs, or sadly, in some cases, as we can see in Kogi, people wearing uniforms, which the police bosses...
that was just
the police bosses have come out to say that they were fake policemen, and people were asking, so what were the real policemen doing then?
The over 31,000.
Yes, what were they doing? And these fake policemen that were driving official-looking vehicles about...
during a curfew.
So he said something about they knew that people were planning to sew fake uniform.
Oh.
And so they gave the official policeman tag.
So when you saw those ones without tags, moving around during a curfew.
With official-looking vehicles.
And why did we have over 31 original policemen there?
Honestly, there are some statements that are better left to the kindergarten level. When senior people make those kind of statements, you start shaking your head and wondering what kind of childish excuse is this. Just say you failed, you will do better next time, or better to say nothing at all. Because people will just assume. So in Kogi now, there's going to be a rerun for the senatorial.
On the 30th of this month.
Okay, so is the same thing going to happen now? The so-called people in the fake uniform are going to drive round again.
Because they would have kept those uniforms for use again. Well, Buhari to security agents crush kidnappers and bandits. This is a ban headline in The Nation. Buhari to security agents crush kidnappers and bandits. The president talked tough yesterday and directed security agencies to deal decisively with kidnappers and bandits. Let me quote him. You should spare no effort in breaking the backbone of these savage mass killers, and don't hesitate to attack them with merciless intensity until they are crushed and ultimately defeated.
Banditry and extremism is not, is not a World Wrestling Federation type of tactics where you jump from the rope, throw fake blows, pin people down, count to 3. No, I mean, that's not the solution to this matter. Let me just repeat my favorite saying on this thing. No army or police has ever defeated poverty and underdevelopment before. It's never going to happen in Nigeria. The attitude of the government that the banditry and extremism is as a result of itself, just simply ignores the fact that in more developed countries, I mean, there is a science to this thing. The better the educational level, the better housing, the better, jobs, the better everything, the less the banditry and extremism. There is a science to it. So unless those things are dealt with, in a scenario, and honestly, unless those things are dealt with, we haven't even seen anything in this country. By 2050, the population would have doubled to about 400 million. In that same scenario, the oil will gradually lose value and then eventually run out anyway.
Right.
The federal government will have no power of patronage. Unless they start dealing with those issues now, education, job skills, industrialization, and all those kind of... how many police are going to contain the lawlessness? Look at countries that everything has broken down. Afghanistan, Democratic Republic of Congo. Is it for lack of militarization? If it was military force, Afghanistan will be the most peaceful country in the world now. Right. Same thing with Somalia.
Right.
Unfortunately, it is not. Let's touch on the final story quickly, Rotimi, before we go. Federal government NEC raised panel on Disco's ownership structure. This is on the front page of the Punch. It's also in The Nation. NEC raises panel to review Disco's membership. Ownership.
It's a lie. Well, they will still be known as NEPA. No matter the name they change. Yes.
Well,
I mean, that is how disappointed Nigerians are in this whole electricity thing.
Right.
That they are still, all of them collectively are still called NEPA.
No, I mean, people have refused to change their mind and say, no matter what you are, you are
Disco,
NEPA.
Genco,
All
Ikeja,
of you,
Eko,
NEPA.
We were on the phone during an interview yesterday, and somebody from your background said,
Up NEPA. One of the callers, we could hear someone in his house shouting up NEPA. Nigerians have refused to change the name. But let's follow up with this story and see if this would really affect electricity.
4,000 megawatts when we should be at about 200,000.
we're preparing for Siemens next year.
It's a complete... Yeah. Even that Siemens thing is a fraction of what is needed.
Is, absolutely.
Look, the government is ignoring the right things to do. First of all, we are still flaring gas. It's a disgrace.
And that's the gas that we should turn into power.
When I tell people that Qatar is the same population as Alimosho local government and they are on 10,000 megawatts of electricity because they are utilizing their gas.
Right.
We have not maximized solar. We have not maximized wind. I think it is Denmark now. About 50% of their electricity generated is coming from wind now. I mean, we have so much space for wind.
Right.
We have electricity.
How about
all
the sun?
We have sun.
All the sun burning our skin.
Germany, from October to February or March, winter grips countries like Germany. They are generating about 45,000 megawatts from renewable energy.
Rotimi, let us go. We'll come to talk about this again on the Morning Crossfire. When we come back from this break, we're talking diabetes. It's World Diabetes Awareness Month. It's a full month activity, and we're talking about diabetes. We'll have a doctor joining us live in the studio on the show. I am Wemimo Adewuni.
I'm Sheriff Quadry. We'll be right back in a moment.
Talk, news, and sports after this.